It is the three letters that everybody's talking about right now. D-E-I. So Mark Cuban and Elon got into a little dust up about it, as you probably guess if you don't already know.
Whose side are you
Elon
on?
was anti. This segment will make that clear, I think. This has been making the rounds partly because this whole thing is blowing up right now. You have Dean Phillips, who took some of that Ackman money. Now he's speaking out against DEI. So we'll get into this subject. So what is it? Bill Maher kind of explains it to Bernie. This is from a couple of years back.
DEI, are we confusing equality of opportunity with trying to guarantee equity in outcomes? Okay, that's interesting because I think this word equity has come into the language in the last few years, and before that we didn't hear it a lot. And I think a lot of people hear equity and they hear equality, that like it's the same word, and it's not the same word in the same concept. So how would you differentiate between equity and equality?
Well, equality, we talk about, I don't know what the answer to that is. Come to think of it, equality is equality of opportunity. All right? We live in a society, we want all people to have whatever color your skin is.
Equity, I think, is more guarantee of outcome, is it not?
I think so. I think that's
okay. So which side do you come down on?
Equality.
Equality.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
All right, so Bernie weighing in there.
He had an elaborate description of what equality is, and then Bill just like, all right, but get to equity. We all know what equality is.
Is this like when they race swap Shaggy? Is that what we're talking about? Because that Velma cartoon, I would very
one thing about that video. It's truly amazing that a self-described democratic socialist does not have a better answer to that question. Like, it's truly amazing how he could be so flat-footed there, because democratic socialism is literally the ideology that he sort of espouses is a hybrid of capitalism and socialism, which means he is for, and I'm with him on this, like when it comes to access to healthcare, I'm for equity. I'm not for equality. I don't think people have the right to pursue access to healthcare. I think healthcare should be free, whether you're poor, middle class, or rich. You should have access to the same government guaranteed healthcare that's free at the point of service for everybody. That's equity. Equality would be like you have equality of opportunity to, learn how to fly an airplane. And the people who learn how to fly the airplane best get the jobs flying the airplane.
Keaton, it's really...
It's just so democratic socialism, which is his ideology, he comes out and says all the time, I'm a democratic socialist. That means equity in certain realms and equality in other realms. Instead, he sits there. I
don't know. I heard Brianna talking about that around the office once, but I wasn't paying attention.
Please, they will put my wife in jail.
All right, so
DEI.
So it's funny you bring up airplanes, Keaton, by coincidence.
I just happened to, it was on my mind.
It was just on your mind. So this, I think, is a really good place to take a look at some of these questions because, as Keaton pointed out here, and as they discussed a little bit on Bill Maher's dumpster fire of a show, equity is a quality of outcomes, which, as a lot of people have pointed out, some of the obvious holes in this idea are, well, does that mean we need to hire more white people in the NBA? Does a difference in outcome always suggest racism or discrimination? Are they discriminating in the nursing field or in the teaching fields against men? Is that why you have more women, or do more women choose to go into that field?
They should start discriminating against men if they don't already.
Well, I agree. I don't want no guy sticking his finger up my ass. All right, so, unless it's in my off hours. So here you see a good example of equity. Some would say gone wrong. Some might suggest that. So this blew up this week right at a moment when this is coming up around Claudine Gay's fire/resignation and so on. So I think that's part of why this got so much attention, other than the fact that Boeings are like dropping out of the sky on a daily basis. United CEO enrages Musk, Larry Elder, and social media for viral diverse hiring comments. Quote, "This is messed up." So the CEO of United a couple years ago did an interview with Axios on HBO, where he expressed his plan to make sure that 50% of the new pilots would be women and people of color. So let's take a look.
How is diversity and diversity targets working into the Aviate Academy?
We have committed that 50% of the class of the classes will be women or people of color. Today, only 19% of our pilots at United Airlines are women or people of color. And by the way, from all the data I've seen, that's the highest of any airline in the country.
White males don't just dominate in the cockpits, also in the C-suite at United Airlines.
Well, look, at United, I'm proud of the diversity that we actually have in our C-suite. I think if you look around corporate America.
Correct me if I'm saying though, so this was just based off your website, the people you list as executives, but out of 11 people, 3 are women. I believe 1 is a person of color.
That's correct. But, in corporate America, I think,
That's a low bar. How do you raise your own bar?
Well, a lot of this is, focusing on it. We have programs one of the things we do is for every job when we're doing an interview, we require women and people of color to be involved in the interview process, bringing people in early in their careers as well, and giving them those opportunities and creating a stronger bench.
Is it an opportunity to be paid less? Because I bet it is. And also trained way less?
Okay, now before I show these next slides, let me make it clear. While I do not understand why anyone feels that 6-year-olds need to be at drag brunch. I have nothing against being a drag queen. I don't think you can't run an airline as a drag queen. But apparently, this is, according to Libs of TikTok and the Post-Millennial, this is the CEO of United. So that may be part of why he has this interest in equity. Now, again, I don't feel this disqualifies somebody from any particular job or position, but these did emerge after this. And if, because of his own identity or his own off-hour activities, that's affecting his judgment as CEO about how to handle hiring, that does become relevant. So that having been said, let's go to the article. The CEO of United Airlines faced intense social media backlash after a resurfaced video showed him boasting about the company's diversity initiatives, which require higher numbers of women and minority workers. During an interview with Axios on HBO in June 2021, CEO Scott Kirby said the company is committed to ensuring 50% of their graduating pilot classes will be women or people of color, up from 19% in 2023. The now viral interview led to a significant uproar on social media. "This is messed up," ex-owner Elon Musk tweeted on the social media platform. Popular finance news account Wall Street Silver wrote that people need to think twice about flying United and that as an airline, the top priority of their hiring should be safety. Now, listen, when Jimmy was booking me my flight out of this town, I told him not to book me on United. Not for this reason.
Oh, there's a dozen reasons.
They have the most Boeing MAX planes in their fleet of any airline. They have like 79 Boeing MAXes.
Okay, first of all, not only do I not care about the gender race of the pilot, I don't even like when they start talking to you too long on the loudspeaker. Like they get to know you. Well, we'll be flying over to Colorado. I play keyboards in my spare time. I don't just pull out.
Do they do that? Do they do that?
Yeah, and then the opening. You ever see Soul Plane?
I host drag brunch on the Strip.
Okay, you ever see Soul Plane? Get my buddy.
I know the movie. I've never seen it.
Okay, so there's a whole funny opening with the safety instructions where they do an R&B. Okay, that was a joke from Soul Plane, which is not known as a great look, by the way. And that's what they literally do on United. The opening safety presentation is this like around the world diversity song where they're like,
do they really?
Get your own mask, cha-cha-cha, before you help. It's unbearable. And the thing that makes me laugh is the CEO's walking there. He's still white. He's going to have his white guy job. It's just, pilots. We're going to...
I mean...
And submarine captains, too white.
He is a white guy who likes to wear dresses, so there's that. Anyone who that I appreciate that as a white guy, because it gives me the opportunity to claim a place in the alphabet if I want one.
In the alphabet people,
right? I can become an alphabet person anytime I want. I'm glad it's almost like they opened up a loophole for me in case I ever want to join.
Dude,
well, that was like Ricky Gervais just did that bit. You know, you got these straight guys who are like, yeah, I'm all queer like now. I'm all queer. Like, what? Because it can mean anything, right? Yeah.
Hey, when I was a kid, we had it. It was called Motley Crue, but they could play guitar. Yeah, they were trans, but they could play an instrument.
It's true.
They didn't just do the dress up.
Def Leppard. Come on.
All of them.
All of them. Anyone who thinks DEI racism should play any role in hiring, that person needs to be removed from the process, Wall Street Silver added. The board of directors should terminate the CEO immediately and focus on safety and only safety. Insanity, radio host and former California gubernatorial candidate Larry Elder chimed in. He can always set a good example and resign immediately, leaving his high-paid position, salary, bonuses, and stock options to someone more diverse, Center for Security Policy senior analyst J. Michael Waller tweeted. United Airlines did not immediately return Fox News Digital's request for comment. But wait, it gets better, folks. The push for diversity in aviation has also expanded to the Federal Aviation Administration, which is overseen by Secretary Pete Buttigieg's Department of Transportation and employs roughly 45,000 people. It was recently revealed that the FAA is actively recruiting workers who suffer, quote, severe intellectual disabilities.
That's real.
Apparently, psychiatric problems and other mental and physical conditions under a diversity and inclusion hiring initiative spelled out on the agency's website. The initiative is part of the FAA's diversity and inclusion hiring plan, which says, quote, diversity is integral to achieving FAA's mission of ensuring safe and efficient travel across our nation and beyond, unquote. Okay, I'm just going to I'm just going to comment on that formulation quickly. Now, whether diversity, equity, and so on, we'll discuss that separately. But very often they present these formulations like safe and effective, right? Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean anything.
Right.
So, no, there is nothing about that that's going to improve your mission of providing safe and efficient travel.
It's integral.
Even if on other grounds you argue it's the right thing to do, that sentence is nonsensical. It is not going to do anything to make travel safer or more efficient to incorporate diversity, equity, and inclusion programs into their hiring. Even if you think it's right for other reasons, that is just nonsense. How is it making it better? When asked for comment on the initiative, including what roles people with disabilities would fulfill, the FAA told Fox News Digital that the agency thoroughly seeks and vets qualified candidates from as many sources as possible for a range of positions.
I hope it's violent.
The FAA employs tens of thousands of people for a wide range of positions, from administrative roles to oversight and execution of critical safety functions. Like many large employers, the agency proactively seeks qualified candidates from as many sources as possible, all of whom must meet rigorous qualifications that, of course, will vary by position, the FAA said. Okay, so put this under the category of medical schools that are trying to get rid of the MCATs. They're trying to get rid of having to do testing to get in. Now this is something
McNamara's morons?
I see this society wide. I call it the great giving up.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? People aren't going to be healthy. We have to normalize obesity and tell people that there's nothing wrong with it.
Ghetto kids in school.
Okay, so we are not willing to put the finances, resources, and work into communities that have been impacted by historic discrimination, so that they can pass the MCATs, so that they are trained up to a level that they can make good pilots. We can't do that. So equity. Yeah. We're just going to paper over the problem by taking unqualified people, putting them in that position, and then checking the boxes, we met these targets. And on a much more trivial level, actually, as I was working on this story, I said, you know, this is kind of what destroyed these sci-fi fantasy genres.
Yes.
Instead of just organically building an audience for a certain approach, they tried to take an equity approach of, you know what, we're just going to stick diversity into these roles, and you better watch it. Well, problem is, you can't make people buy tickets. You can't make people turn on their TV.
Yeah, but let me pitch this to you. Okay, so when you talk about making investments in these underserved communities, right? Or when you talk about programs like universal health care or tuition-free college, what you're actually talking about is equity. That is equity. And this is how the elites hijack our entire discourse here in this country. You stick a word like equity, which actually means what you just said.
Right.
There's nothing
it actually
wrong
means
with
liability, for the record.
You sandwich it between these two woke buzzwords, diversity and inclusion, which are bullshit. Those are designed to smooth over the brutalities of capitalism by putting, you know, a black CEO here, a trans CEO there. And now all of a sudden you've made this word equity and this concept of equity completely toxic because you lumped it in with these neoliberal Davos woke buzzwords. And that's how they rig our dialogue. That's how they manipulate our entire conversation. So when you talk about investing in underserved areas, you're talking about bringing equity to the society. A society in which 90% of all new wealth goes to the richest 1% of people. That's a society that is in deep need of some fucking equity. It is. But we can't get it. We can't get it because it is tied by these liberal goons to these empty, hollow words and phrases like diversity and inclusion, which really just means the diversification of the rulers. That's what that means.
I think that's an excellent take. I agree with every word. Kurt?
I remember when that word started I remember when I first started hearing equity a lot, and it sounded like horse shit right out of the gate. It didn't get, by the way, woke, for the record, that meant you were a black guy that doesn't think we landed on the moon. That's what that used to mean. Didn't mean that you're...
Well, yeah, they hijacked the word.
Yeah, like all these things are poison now, but like equity, I never heard them including healthcare in that. I heard them saying, now I should have every single, like, your HuffPost level of...
Well, right. Well, that's exactly what I'm talking
that
about.
horse shit. They all... I mean, I worked with so many people that just didn't know the difference between equity and equality at all.
Well, this is where you can see how much it goes off the beam, because now what you're getting in the name of equity is discrimination against Asians.
They don't want
getting these
equity.
schools
They want to convince you
Asian
that they're
admission.
good, virtuous people, so that when the wall peels off the side of the airplane because they cut corners on the fucking airplane, they can say, hey, look what great people we are. What? Oh, we only care about the bottom line? That's nonsense. Look at all these investments we made in diversifying our boardroom.
Exactly.
Right? That's what it is.
But I think also, and this is kind of a semantic argument. I mean, yes, you could call those investments in communities equity. To me, it's an investment that is meant to give people equality of opportunity. That doesn't get you a spot in medical school. It doesn't get you a spot.
Get the lead out of their paint first.
Flying a plane. But it brings you up to the level where you are on an equal playing field when you apply for that opportunity. So I think when we say, now you can...
In that sense, absolutely.
Right.
In that sense, absolutely.
To me,
but when it comes
that's
to,
your
like,
investing.
school lunches, right? I mean, now you're talking equity, because now you're actually creating some sort of result for people, right? When you're talking about, okay, we're not going to feed kids like prison food. We're actually going to, invest in
remember those sloppy joes?
Right. I mean, that creates opportunity. Sure, there's opportunity that comes with that. But there's also a tangible result that you're giving people, making their lives better in the moment, which then further creates opportunity, right?
So the takeaway is we're not against equity. We're against the Davos version of equity, which is basically just throwing identity groups into positions that they may or may not be qualified for in order to cover over the vicissitudes of capitalism. That's basically the takeaway.
I am against equity, but yes.
That's my take, yeah.
Equity means liability. That's what it meant. It got turned into a new meaning by the most irritating people.
Yes.
In all of his,
but that's what Keaton's talking about. That
I just disagree.
That they take ideas of the left and they make them toxic by interpreting them in ways that no reasonable people could person could possibly go along with.
Well, I don't know the original.
And then you can't talk about any of it.
If the original context I heard it in was Kimberly Crenshaw and
I rest my case. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I guess it's a minor.
But yeah, I don't think anybody thinks it's a good idea to base your hiring for airline pilot or doctor or anything like that on identity or just papering over the realities at these companies by just hiring people for their. Of course, the person who tests best should go to medical school. Now, there are deep iniquities in our society. I've wanted to do a piece about him. This is there's a Harvard professor who, they came at him the way they come at anyone who doesn't go along with the narrative. Sexual harassment. But I think he's still there at Harvard. And he did a study that revealed, guess what? Oh my God, this is so shocking. That if you make kids in underserved communities work harder in school, they do better. That actually having them work harder improves results better than any other approach that you could possibly apply. But instead of doing common sense things like that, we get diverted and sidetracked into these ideas like equity, where you instead of actually improving the education, you're just going to stick people in positions without actually raising them up.
It's all people who don't care about any one person's individual problem. And so if something bad happens to you and you let's say I know so many people that Me Too didn't help them in any way, shape, or form. It helped some people get Chris Matthews' job, that kind of shit. They don't care about your individual thing. We have, we've like your pain. We've made it like Marxist. We've all equally been attacked by men. Like, no, some people had real things. Some people didn't. They did that across the board to everything.
Well, that's another thing. I keep mentioning Louise Perry's book, The Case Against the Sexual Revolution. And something she gets into in that is that a lot of these liberal ideas of progress have a different impact on lower classes and upper classes.
Yes.
So very often when you look at equity, very often it's about putting more people who are already from a relatively elevated class background in those positions rather than to reach out to the lower classes,
ending gifted programs
and elevating them.
They ended in New York. They give
I know.
So that's to keep the door shut so nobody. All of our schools were designed to make sure people really are upwardly mobile in the first place, but it's all shutting the door to make sure nobody climbs up the ladder behind you.
Anything else, Keaton?
Well, yeah, no, I mean, look, but once again, that's why that word gets sandwiched between diversity and inclusion, because that's what they really want. What they really want is to create the illusion that they are committed to fairness, when obviously they're not.
Come see us do a live stand-up show. We'll be in Venice, California, Palmdale, California, Omaha, Des Moines, Milwaukee, Lansing, Bend, Oregon, Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington, Boston, Massachusetts, and we're going to Europe. Do you live in Europe? We're going to be there. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for all those tickets.